What civilization managed to measure the pulse of the universe without telescopes or clocks? What eyes watched the sky for millennia until they understood that time is not a straight line, but an endless cycle? In the jungles of Mesoamerica, amid the echo of monkeys and the whisper of wind through the leaves, a culture dared to look beyond the horizon. They raised temples like stone clocks, carved their history into living glyphs, and turned the sky into their sacred book. They were the Maya, the children of time. Their world was not merely a territory, but a union of earth, sky, and soul. Every sunrise was a rebirth, every eclipse a divine message. They believed the gods spoke through the stars, and that the fate of humankind was woven into the movement of the stars. For centuries, they mastered the art of counting the unseen, time, life, and death. And though their civilization seemed to vanish beneath the dense jungle canopy, their wisdom continued to pulse beneath the earth. This is not only the story of an ancient people, it is the story of an eternal quest, humanity striving to understand its place in the cosmos. And so, the story of the Maya begins. The guardians of time. Before temples and glyphs, before time itself had a name, there was a single grain that changed everything. Corn, in which the Maya saw more than food. They saw the origin of life. The Popol Vuh, their sacred book, tells that the gods shaped humanity from maize dough, and when they breathed upon it, they gave it a soul. From that moment on, every ear of corn became a reflection of the human body, every harvest a resurrection. Thus was born the sacred bond between humanity and the earth, between time and sustenance. More than 3,000 years ago, in the humid lands of southern Mexico and Guatemala, the first Maya began cultivating this divine plant. With maize came stability, and with stability, the dream of permanence. Villages rose beside rivers and cenotes, sheltered by a jungle filled with life and mystery. The jungle was their teacher. From it they learned cycles, rhythms, and pauses. Every rainfall marked a rebirth, every drought a lesson. And while other cultures raised walls to separate themselves from nature, the Maya listened to it as one listens to the voice of the gods. In the caves, they saw the portals of the underworld, where water was born and the soul found rest. In the sky, they saw the paths of the gods guiding human destiny. Between these two realms stood the Tzeba, the sacred tree, binding together the sky, the earth, and Xibalba, the three dimensions of the Maya universe. Beneath its shadow, the Maya envisioned the universe as a living tree. Its roots plunged into the underworld, home of spirits and water deities. Its trunk upheld the world of humankind, and its branches touched the heavens, dwelling place of the celestial gods. The Tzeba was not merely a symbol, it was the axis of the cosmos, the point where all worlds converged. In their temples, its form was repeated again and again, stairways rising like branches, stelae standing as its trunk, and offerings buried at its base, as if every city were a stone Tzeba connected to the universe. It was then that people understood the earth, water, fire, and wind were not separate elements, but parts of a single heart. And that heart had a pulse, the pulse of time. Thus began the dawn of the Maya world, a place where every stone, every seed, and every shadow formed part of an invisible calendar, marked not by clocks, but by the heartbeat of creation. As the centuries passed, those who had learned to listen to the jungle began to look farther. From their hands, a new civilization would be born. The rise of the Maya world did not happen in isolation. Before them, other peoples had already dreamed of the fire of civilization. And among them, one planted the spark that would ignite the greatness of the South, the Olmecs. From them, they inherited the idea that power could be expressed in stone, as in their colossal carved heads, and that temples were not mere structures, but mirrors of the sky. The Maya studied these forms, understood them, and made them their own. Where the Olmecs had raised altars, they built pyramids that climbed toward the heavens. Between 1000 and 400 BC, the jungles of the Petén began to fill with life. Nabe and El Mirador became the first great settlements of this new world. It was there that priest-kings rose, men who spoke with the gods and measured the days in perfect cycles. From their palaces of lime and stone, they shaped the destiny of their people with the same precision with which the stars traced the sky. Ladanta, the most massive pyramid of the ancient world, rose as a challenge to nature. It was not merely a human construction, it was a mountain born of faith, a reminder that height itself could be an act of devotion. The Maya began to master trade, weaving routes that linked the jungle to the highlands. Jade arrived from the Gulf, obsidian from the Pacific, and cacao from the south. But what truly passed through their hands were not objects, but ideas, symbols, beliefs, and visions of the cosmos that traveled across mountains and generations. And so, little by little, the jungle became a map. Rivers turned into roads, temples into clocks, and men into heirs of the ancient gods. The legacy of their ancestors blossomed between stone and sun. And thus began the age when the Maya reached for the stars. For 6 centuries, the jungle bore witness to an era unlike any before it. Between AD 250 and 900, the Maya reached the highest point in their history. It was a time when stone spoke, time was measured with remarkable precision, and cities became reflections of the cosmos. Tikal, Calakmul, Copan, Palenque, and Caracol rose as thrones of power. Each was a kingdom city, ruled by dynasties who believed themselves chosen by the gods. Kings wore jaguar pelts, carried serpent-shaped scepters, and offered their own blood to preserve the balance of the universe. From the summit of Temple 4 in Tikal, priests watched the sunrise as if decoding a celestial calendar. The temples were not mere constructions. They were observatories. Their stairways aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, and every shadow cast upon their walls marked the cycles of time. Maya cities were living organisms. Their plazas formed the heart, their temples the soul, and their roads the veins that connected them to the wider world. On their walls, artists carved glyphs that narrated wars, alliances, and dynasties. Every symbol was a word, every relief, a story written in stone. Art and science coexisted with a single purpose: to understand the order of the cosmos. In Palenque, the majestic temple of the inscriptions preserved not only the remains of Pakal the Great, but also a symbolic map of life, death, and resurrection. In Copan, astronomers recorded the movements of Venus, convinced that its brilliance signaled omens of war or prosperity. Wars between Tikal and Calakmul set the jungle ablaze. Alliances shifted with the seasons, and kings fought not only for territory, but for the favor of the gods. In the Maya world, war was also ritual. Capturing an enemy king was not merely victory, but a cosmic offering. Such was the splendor of the classic era, a civilization that did more than raise cities. It transformed the jungle into a mirror of the sky, where every stone had a purpose, and every gaze toward the stars sought to unravel the mystery of time. Yet between temples and stars, life also pulsed. For a civilization is measured not only by its kings, but by the heartbeat of its people. Far from temples and dynasties, the heartbeat of the Maya world began in villages and marketplaces. In the fields, farmers worked the land in rhythm with rain and sun. Maize, beans, and squash were essential to the cycle of life. In their workshops, artisans shaped vessels, masks, and tools. Every figure had a purpose. Every color carried a story. Markets were the heart of exchange and community life. Different languages could be heard there. Cacao was shared, and offerings were made to the gods of the day. Everything had a purpose: to work, to trade, and to give thanks. Music marked the passage of time. The sound of conch shells and drums accompanied ceremonies, harvests, and games. And when the sun set, life paused in silence. Each day was simple, yet full of meaning. For the Maya, to live well meant maintaining balance between earth, sky, and community. And when night arrived, only the lights of the temples remained lit, where scribes prepared to record the new day. In silent temples, by the light of torches, Maya scribes traced the signs of the universe onto fig bark. Each glyph was a word of time, and every line an echo of the cosmos. They did not write for men, but for the gods. Their hieroglyphic writing combined art, science, and faith. It was painting and prayer at once. The colors came from sacred minerals, the brushes from plant fibers and animal hair. The codices they created were not mere records. They were mirrors of the sky, maps of the soul, and calendars that measured the passage of time. The walls of temples and palaces were also covered in stories. They depicted the feats of kings, divine lineages, and the cycles of the cosmos. Every figure had purpose. Every stroke followed the order of the stars. Art did not decorate. It explained the world. Scribes were guardians of knowledge. Their work united thought and faith, form and spirit. In their hands, time became word, and word became immortal. In the heart of the Maya world, time was not a measure. It was a divinity. Every sunrise, every eclipse, and every cycle of Venus was the very pulse of the universe. The Maya did not merely observe the sky, they deciphered it. They believed that within the movement of the stars lay the designs of the gods and the destiny of humankind. In the great cities of the classic period, such as Copan, Palenque, and Oaxaca, priest astronomers erected temples that were also observatories. From their terraces, they studied the path of the sun and the planets, carving the maps of time into stone. Every shadow cast during the solstice or equinox was a sign written by the sky. With a precision that still astonishes the modern world, they designed calendars that governed the entire life of their civilization: the Hab, the Tzolk'in, and the Long Count. The Hab of 365 days guided harvests and seasons. The Tzolk'in of 260 days ordered rituals and marked the destiny of every birth. When both aligned, they formed a greater 52-year cycle, the calendar round, the heartbeat of the Maya cosmos. But it was the long count that allowed them to look beyond a single human life, a calendar spanning millennia and recording the beginnings and endings of eras. To measure time with such accuracy, the Maya required something few civilizations had imagined: zero. They represented it with a shell, symbol of the creative void. It was their greatest mathematical discovery, and with it they built a way of understanding the universe that united the spiritual and the scientific. Venus was the most sacred celestial body. Its appearances and disappearances determined wars, sacrifices, and coronations. For them, science was devotion. Every calculation was a prayer. Every eclipse, a divine sign. To understand the sky was to honor life. In their writing, in their temples, and in their codices, time became art. Each glyph told not only a date, but a story, a cycle that repeated eternally. Thus the Maya became the chroniclers of the universe, the guardians of the days. And while in other parts of the world time moved forward like a line, for the Maya it turned in perfect circles. For them, nothing ever truly ended. Every ending was a new beginning, every death a renewal beneath the same sky. And while the priests deciphered the stars, others looked toward the depths, seeking the hidden reflection of the sky beneath the earth. When the Maya looked to the sky, they did not see only the home of the gods. They knew that beneath the earth lay another realm, the inverted mirror of the cosmos. It was Xibalba, the underworld, the place where the soul faced its trials before being reborn. The stories of the Popol Vuh tell that two heroic twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, descended into that shadowed world to challenge the lords of death. They journeyed through caves, rivers, and houses of fire, overcoming traps and deception, until they defeated darkness through cunning and sacrifice. Their victory symbolized that even after death, life could return. For the Maya, every cave was a doorway to Xibalba, and every cenote, a water-filled eye connecting to the depths of the soul. Priests descended into these places with lit torches, carrying offerings of copal and blood. There, among echoes and vapors, they believed they could sense the presence of the underworld. Xibalba was not a hell, but the reverse of the sky. A realm of transformation, where the spirit had to die in order to be reborn. This vision shaped their entire philosophy. Death was not an end, but part of the same cycle the saber remembered, the eternal journey between darkness and rebirth. Thus, while their cities rose toward the stars, the Maya never forgot to look downward as well. Only those who descend into darkness can truly understand the light of the cosmos. At the heart of every Maya city stood a court. It was not a place of entertainment, but a sacred space. There, the balance between life and death, light and darkness, was brought to life. The ball game was a sacred ceremony. Two teams faced one another without using their hands, striking a heavy rubber ball with their hips, forearms, and chests. Every movement mirrored the cycle of the sun, its descent, its rebirth, and its journey across the sky. Yet this contest was not played for glory, but for destiny. In some cities, the victors were sacrificed, offered to the gods as heroes who ensured the balance of the world. In others, the defeated gave their lives to restore cosmic order. What mattered was that the sacrifice renewed the harmony of the universe. The walls of the courts displayed scenes of sacrifice and rebirth. The players were portrayed as demigods. Their severed heads gave rise to new plants, reminding all that death was simply another form of victory. For the Maya, the game was a dialogue with the cosmos. Every rebound of the ball symbolized the balance of the universe, the eternal struggle between day and night, life and death. And when the echo of the final strike faded between the walls, the sun rose once more. The cycle continued, and with it, life. For centuries, Maya cities seemed invincible. From the heights of their temples, kings watched the sunrise, confident in their dominion. But nothing escapes the cycles of time, not even the children of the sky. By the 8th century, the balance began to fracture. The rains grew scarce, the fields cracked, and maize, their primary sustenance, began to fail. The land that had once given them life became unforgiving. The gods fell silent. Wars multiplied. Kingdoms that had once been allies clashed over the resources that remained. Tikal and Kalakmal, eternal rivals, were consumed in a struggle that drained the strength of the entire region. The power that had once united the cities fractured into fear and desperation. The kings, unable to restore balance, intensified their most extreme rituals. In the temples, blood, fire, and prayers were offered. But the gods answered with a deafening silence. Trade routes collapsed, cities became isolated, and the jungle, eternal and patient, began reclaiming what was its own. Temples were swallowed by roots, plazas by silence. Communities migrated northward toward the dry lands of Yucatan, where the sky still seemed to promise hope. Thus began the Maya Exodus, a massive movement toward new lands. In myth, the underworld was called Xibalba, the place of fear. Their souls descended to face their trials before being reborn. So too did their civilization descend. Its fall was a transformation, a silent purification before rising again. And as the jungle covered their temples, the echo of the Maya did not vanish. It lay dormant among the roots, waiting for the day when, as in their calendars, the cycle would begin again. After the collapse, a new chapter emerged. When the south fell silent, the north awakened. In the arid lands of the Yucatan, the Maya found a new home, and with them, a new era began. There, between stone and wind, a new greatness rose beneath a different symbol, the feathered serpent. Chichén Itzá rose as the heart of the post-classic era. Its temples were more austere, its lines more rigid, yet in every stone, the precision of time endured. The influence of the Toltecs, arriving from the highlands, brought a fusion of styles, beliefs, and rituals. From that union emerged a god who would bridge two worlds, Kukulkan. Kukulkan, Lord of Wind and Wisdom, was the Maya embodiment of the ancient deity Quetzalcoatl. He was not a conquering god, but a bearer of knowledge. In his honor, the Maya built the Pyramid of El Castillo, a masterpiece balancing science and faith. At every equinox, the temple's shadow descends along the stairway in the shape of a serpent, a phenomenon reminding all that the gods still walked among men. El Caracol, the observatory of Chichén Itzá, bore witness to this new era. From its circular tower, priests tracked the path of Venus as their ancestors had done centuries before. Though the times had changed, their gaze toward the sky remained the same, to seek order within chaos. El Caracol was not only an observation tower, it also served as a temple of knowledge. Its spiral form symbolized the movement of the universe and the journey of the soul through time. From its precisely aligned openings, priests observed solstices, eclipses, and the cycles of Venus. Every alignment was a message, every shadow a word from the sky. On clear nights, torchlight illuminated the walls of El Caracol as observers recorded their calculations on tablets of lime and red pigment. For them, to look at the sky was a sacred act, humanity's attempt to converse with the gods. Chichén Itzá became a metropolis of thought, commerce, and faith. From there, routes stretched toward the Caribbean and the highlands, carrying jade, obsidian, and cacao, but also symbols and visions of the cosmos. Mayapan and other cities followed its example, extending the renewed voice of the Maya world. Yet this renewal also carried the echo of the past. Wars, power struggles, and sacrifices returned. The feathered serpent, symbol of wisdom, became an emblem of power as well. And so, the cycle turned once more. In the Maya world, nothing dies forever. Everything collapses, is reborn, and transforms. And in every rebirth, Kukulkan descended once more, reminding humankind that time is not measured, it is lived. For centuries, its wisdom illuminated the northern jungles, until one day, the horizon filled with sails. When the waters of the Atlantic brought conquest, the Maya had already lived through 1,000 rebirths, but no cycle had prepared them for that encounter. The men who arrived from across the sea carried weapons, fire, and a faith determined to replace all others. Pedro de Alvarado, the conqueror sent by Cortés, advanced with cruelty through Maya lands. His armies destroyed temples, burned codices, and shed the blood of kings and commoners alike. Yet the Maya did not surrender easily. They knew the jungle, and they knew how to wait. Some communities accepted domination. Others vanished into the dense forests. Cities became fortresses, and roads became ambushes. The struggle was not only physical, it was spiritual as well. In every secret ritual, in every word spoken in the Maya tongue, the voice of the ancient gods still pulsed. In northern Guatemala, beside Lake Petanitza, the last free city rose, Tayasal. There, the Itzá Maya resisted for more than a century and a half after the fall of the rest of Mesoamerica. From their stone walls, they watched the still waters, preparing for the war they knew was inevitable. They lived with dignity, with the pride of those who know they belong to something eternal. In 1697, Spanish cannons finally reached Tayasal. It was an uneven battle that destroyed centuries of history. Yet even as flames consumed the city, its spirit did not die. Maya resistance was not measured in victories, but in the ability to endure. And so, amid smoke and silence, the last city fell, but the people remained standing. In the mountains, in the villages, in the words still spoken today, the Maya endured. Not conquered, but transformed. Guardians of a memory neither iron nor time could destroy. But when the noise of war faded, a new silence began. After the war came silence. Temples smoldered, cities stood empty, and among the ruins burned a fire, unlike that of battle, the fire of erasure and censorship. In sacred courtyards, Maya codices, Books containing the secrets of the cosmos and the genealogies of kings were cast into the flames. Fray Diego de Landa wrote that he saw nothing but superstition in their pages. And as the fire consumed the symbols, smoke rose toward the sky as if the ancient voices were returning to the heavens that had once inspired them. The glow of those bonfires marked the end of an era of written wisdom and the beginning of imposed silence. Of the hundreds of codices, only 4 survived: Dresden, Paris, Madrid, and Grolier. Within them remains the science of the stars, the prophecies and the calendars the Maya had crafted with remarkable precision. They are the final pages of a civilization that understood time not as history, but as living memory. The fire sought to erase their knowledge, but it did not succeed. Though the words were lost, their wisdom continued to pulse in stone, in temples, and in the blood of their descendants. And so, even among the ashes, the Maya kept writing, with eternity as their ink. Yet amid the smoke and shadows, something survived. The soul of the Maya, which no fire could consume. Time moved on, and with it, the Maya. Not as ruins nor as memory, but as a living presence that breathes between jungle and sky. Despite the centuries, they still speak their languages, sow their maize, and raise prayers to the same sun that witnessed the birth of their gods. In the mountains of Guatemala and the jungles of Yucatan, the ancient voice can still be heard. Prayer leaders light copal, farmers gaze at the stars, and in the smoke rising into the wind, the memory of the universe seems to whisper. The Maya did not seek to conquer time. They embraced it. They turned days into art, the skies into language, and life into a sacred cycle. Today, Chichén Itzá, Tikal, and Palenque shine once more beneath the same sun. They are not ruins, they are hearts of stone that still beat between earth and the stars. And every sunrise over their temples is a reminder that nothing truly sacred ever dies. It only transforms. As long as the sun continues to rise over the jungles of Mesoamerica, the echo of Maya time will keep resonating, whispering that even in the shadow of history, its light never ceased to shine. If this journey through the history of the Maya inspired you, share this documentary and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the civilizations that shaped the soul of the ancient world. We invite you to continue this journey through the great civilizations of the world, such as Mesopotamia. Discover their stories in the documentaries on the channel and keep exploring the soul of the ancient world. Your support keeps history alive and helps us continue telling the stories that time refuses to forget.